It's my honor and privilege this morning to welcome you to the unveiling of the Heroes in Life Wall of Honor. In particular, a very warm welcome as well to the family and friends of the 8 fallen officers who have been able to join us here this morning. We begin this morning by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and remind us that acknowledging this as the great standard of living that we enjoy in Niagara is directly related to the resources and friendships of the Indigenous people who make up our community. At this time, we'll be joined by Chief Brian McCullough to offer some comments this morning. Chief?
Good morning, and thank you very much, Stephanie. Chair Ganzel, members of the Police Services Board who are here in attendance, command staff, senior officers, sworn officers, and our civilian members who are in attendance, Chaplains Gary Page and Chaplain Carson Pulp, retired members of the service. It's great to see so many retirees out this morning. Senior Officer Association President Brian Ash, Niagara Region Police Association President Cliff Priest, other dignitaries in attendance, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Good morning and welcome to the Heroes in Life Wall of Honor unveiling ceremony. The ceremony is dedicated to 8 officers who have tragically died in the performance of their duties in service of the people of the Niagara region. I want to start by thanking everyone in attendance for taking time to attend this important event, one of dedication, one of honor, and one of remembrance. I want to extend my sincere thanks to everyone who has given their time and dedication making the Heroes in Life Wall of Honor a reality. Sergeant Nilan DeVay in particular, Inspector Jim McCaffrey, I know that this was a vision of yours, and Mr. James Bird for coordinating all of the work around the wall, so thank you very much. This location here in the front lobby of our headquarters is not only accessible to members of the Niagara Regional Police Service, but also accessible to all members of the public. This will ensure that the memory and ultimate sacrifice of our fallen officers will never be forgotten or fade into history. Most importantly, I want to thank the family and friends of our fallen officers who are present here today. Our hearts are heavy for the loss that your families have endured. Thank you for your support in making this Heroes in Life Wall of Honor a reality. We are honored to have you here this morning. Also, briefly as a side note, in explanation of other markings that you will see once the wall is unveiled, a time capsule has been placed within the wall for a 100-year time period to be opened in 2120. Sadly, none of us will be here, but it'll be a big day, I'm pretty sure of that. At this time, I want to move forward with honoring the names of the memory of the fallen officers. However, before doing this, I think it would be appropriate now to unveil the wall, and we've got tall Chris Seary here to take care of that for us. On this wall before you, you will notice 8 commemorative plaques, each serving as an everlasting dedication and reminder to the 8 fallen officers who have tragically died in the service of our community. And they are as follows. Port Robinson Village Constable Charles Richards. On Monday, October 2nd, 1854, near Port Robinson, a farmer was robbed of $25 by 3 men. Constable Charles Richard located one of the men at the local hotel and was fatally shot when attempting to arrest him. Constable Richards was born in the East Indy on September 18, 1812, and eventually settled in Upper Canada and lived in the village of Allenburg. In nearby Port Robinson, starting in 1843, Constable Richards held various ale and beer and tavern inn licenses. As an innkeeper, Constable Richards was designated as a village constable by the local magistrate and was known for performing his duties fully and without hesitation. At the time of his death, Constable Richards was 42 years old, and he was survived by his wife, Jane. Thorold Police Force Constable Joseph Truman. In the early morning hours of Sunday, December 17, 1922, 35-year-old Constable Joseph Truman was alone on foot patrol in Thorold when he was confronted by a known criminal and was shot to death. Constable Truman was born in Northern Ireland and moved to Toronto at the age of 21. In Toronto, he reunited with his brother and sister, William and Matilda, who had previously moved to Canada. Prior to becoming a police officer, Constable Truman was a longtime bank messenger at the Imperial Bank in Welland. He continued his employment there for many years until deciding to become a police officer at the age of 33. Constable Truman joined the Welland Police Force in May 1920, and in September 1921, he joined the nearby Thorold Police Force. Constable Truman was described as a gracious and thoughtful person. He had a smile and kind greeting for all who met him on the street. He was known as a likable, warm-hearted Irishman who took pride in performing to the best of his ability. At the time of his death, Constable Truman was engaged to be married. Crowland Township Police Force Constable James McNichol. Constable James A. McNichol joined the Crowland Township in 1928. On Tuesday, September 2nd, 1930, Constable McNichol responded to a report of gunshots being fired at a residence on 6th Street in Welland. When he approached the front of the residence, Constable McNichol did not know that a 45-year-old man had concealed himself from view, armed with a double-barreled 12-gauge shotgun. Constable McNichol was fatally shot by the man who had been lying in wait. Constable McNichol never had an opportunity to draw his service revolver to defend himself. Constable McNichol was described as a courteous and fearless officer who was esteemed by his fellow officers. Constable McNichol was 27 years old at the time of his death. He left behind his wife, 4 children, ranging in age from 18 months to 7 years old. Of note, Constable McNichol's grandson, Rick Burketta, followed in his grandfather's footsteps by becoming a police officer with the Niagara Regional Police Service, and after leading a full career, retired at the rank of detective sergeant. Constable McNichol's great-grandson, Tyler Burketta, has also become a member of the service and is currently assigned to the St. Catharines Criminal Investigation Branch, holding the rank of detective constable. Stamford Township Police Force Constable Dennis Winstanley. Constable Dennis Winstanley joined the Stamford Township Police Force in 1958. On Saturday, February 3rd, 1962, Constable Winstanley had stopped a vehicle on Garner Road in Niagara Falls for a routine traffic investigation. While standing beside his cruiser interviewing the driver of the stopped vehicle, Constable Winstanley was struck and killed by a passing vehicle. Through the efforts and alertness of 3 of Constable Winstanley's fellow officer, the driver was arrested a short distance away from the scene, and the male was charged with several impaired driving-related offenses. Constable Winstanley was described as a talented, unassuming, conscientious officer who was well-liked by the public and his fellow officers. At the time, Chief Cunningham said that, above all, Constable Winstanley was a good husband and a loving father. At the time of his death, Constable Winstanley was 30 years old, and he was survived by his wife, Ruth, and their 2 children, Judith and Kevin. Niagara Regional Police Force Constable Luciano DeSimone. Constable Luciano DeSimone joined the Niagara Regional Police Force in 1972. On Thursday, May 2nd of 1974, Constable DeSimone was working an evening shift in Fort Erie when he was dispatched to assist officers in Niagara Falls dealing with a major disturbance. Constable DeSimone was driving northbound on the Queen Elizabeth Highway, traveling on the Welland River Bridge, when his cruiser struck the rear of a flatbed transport truck that had stopped and was not visible to approaching traffic. The truck driver had stopped to assist a motorist who had been involved in a collision on the roadway just moments earlier. The Ontario Provincial Police investigated the collision and no charges were laid. Constable DeSimone was described as an extremely kind and loving man who enjoyed spending time with his family and friends. He enjoyed basketball, fishing, and riding his motorcycle. He always wanted to serve as a police officer, and he looked forward to becoming a motorcycle officer one day. This promising young officer was just 24 years old when he died. He was the first officer of the newly formed Niagara Regional Police Force to die in the performance of his duties. At the time of his death, Constable DeSimone was engaged to be married and lived with his parents. Niagara Regional Police Force Constable Stephen Pease. Constable Stephen Pease joined the Niagara Regional Police Force in 1975. On Saturday, December 27, 1980, Constable Pease was performing uniform duties directing traffic on Geneva Street in St. Catharines. A vehicle approached Constable Pease and struck him on his left side, injuring his left leg and foot. The driver of the vehicle was stopped moments later and subsequently charged with careless driving. Constable Pease was transported to the Hotel Dieu Hospital, where he was treated and released for his injuries to his left leg and foot. Constable Pease was not one to complain about his injury and subsequently returned to active duty shortly after the incident. Unfortunately, the seriousness and the extent of the trauma to his leg and foot was not realized for some time, and as a result, his health deteriorated over the next few years to the point that he could no longer work. On Monday, January 25, 1988, this young officer died from medical complications caused by blood clots associated to his injured leg that had broke away and collected in his lungs. Constable Pease was a dedicated officer who was well liked and respected by all who knew him and worked with him. Through all the difficult times that he endured as a result of his injury, he never gave up hope and fully intended to return to work one day. Constable Pease was 36 years old. He was married to Cheryl, and they had two young sons, James Joseph, or Joey, and Thomas Allen, or Tommy. I'm pleased to say that Sherry, Joey, and Tommy are all here today, and we are honored by your presence. Thank you very much. And I'll also add that Joe has followed in his father's footsteps by becoming a Niagara Regional Police Service, a member of the Niagara Regional Police Service, and he currently holds the rank of Detective Constable, and he's assigned to our Sexual Assault Unit. Niagara Regional Police Service Constable Jeffrey Palazzi, who joined the police service in 1982. On Saturday, February 6, 1993, just prior to the beginning of the tactical unit training session, Constable Palazzi died from a gunshot that had been accidentally discharged from a fellow officer's firearm. Constable Palazzi joined the Niagara Regional Police Force as a cadet at the age of 22. Before being hired, he had been an active volunteer with the Niagara Regional Police Auxiliary Unit for over 1 year. Constable Palazzi was a dedicated officer who served with distinction and was the recipient of a number of commendations and awards. He was a highly skilled sniper with the Emergency Task Unit and was described as a crack shot. He is remembered as a good friend with a quick wit and a tremendous sense of humor, a perfectionist in everything that he did. At the time of his death, Constable Palazzi was 32 years old, and he was survived by his wife Elaine and their two young children, Krista and Kevin. I'm pleased to say that Mrs. Ethel Roy, Constable Palazzi's mother, is here with us today, and we are honored by her presence, so thank you very much for attending. Niagara Regional Police Service Constable Dan Roth Oni. Constable Dan Roth Oni joined the Niagara Regional Police Service in 2000 as a special constable, and then in 2001 assumed the rank of police constable. On Thursday, September 15th, 2005, Constable Roth Oni collapsed and died as a result of heart failure while completing a fitness test for the Emergency Task Unit. Constable Roth Oni and his family immigrated to Canada from Hungary in 1995. After arriving in Canada, Constable Roth Oni realized the beginning of his dream to become a police officer. In June of 2000, he was hired by the Niagara Regional Police Service as a court escort officer. He performed so well that in September of 2001, he was hired as a police constable. Constable Roth Oni was an excellent athlete and a 3-time Hungarian national junior canoeing champion. Constable Roth Oni was described as an honorable and dedicated police officer who believed in protecting society and preserving our freedoms. He possessed an extremely positive attitude and was recognized for his service to the public and enthusiasm for his profession. At the time of his death, Constable Roth Oni was 41 years old. He was married to Agnes, and they had 2 sons, Tom and Attila. I'm pleased to say that Agnes, Tom, and Attila, with their respective families, are all here today, and we're honored by your presence, so thank you very much. I'd also add that Attila's wife, Brianne Roth Oni, is a civilian member of the Niagara Regional Police Service and is currently assigned to our training unit. This time I'd ask that we take a moment of silence in memory and honor of these 8 officers who have made the ultimate sacrifice. You may have noticed as you came in the police building and looking out through the window that our flags are at half-mast, and while fitting for this ceremony, it's sad to say that unfortunately the flags have been lowered to half-mast as a result of one of our civilian members, a currently serving member who tragically died just recently as a result of a lengthy illness. So our hearts and prayers are certainly with her family as they deal with this very difficult time. So if we could just please take a moment of silence. Thank you. For the surviving families of the fallen officers, you have carried on the memory of your loved ones, imparting their legacy to your family members as the cycle of life progresses from one generation to the next. I'm honored and privileged to say that going forward from today, this Heroes in Life Wall of Honor serves as a memorial to the service and sacrifice of the fallen officers. It does, however, also serve as a reminder of the risks that all police officers face on a daily basis as they serve their communities. They will forever stand in testament to the sacrifice. This Wall of Honor will give us pause for thought to all that see the commemorative plaques, whether a family member, a friend, or a citizen who is seeing the names in the narrative of the fallen officers for the first time. And for all of us who know the history behind the commemorative plaques, we will never forget the ultimate sacrifice that Constables Charles Richards, Joseph Truman, James A. McNichol, Dennis Winstanley, Luciano DeSimone, Stephen Pease, Jeffrey Palazzi, and Dan Roth Oni made serving our communities. I want to thank all of you again for attending this important Heroes in Life Wall of Honor ceremony dedicated to those 8 officers. Let us always remember our officers who have paid the ultimate sacrifice while performing their duties and ensuring the safety of our communities. And finally, again, I thank the family members of our fallen officers that have assisted and allowed us to make this Heroes in Life Wall of Honor unveiling ceremony a very special ceremony today. We will never forget our fallen officers, and we are forever indebted for their service and sacrifice. Heroes in life, not death. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. As we near the end of our ceremony this morning, I'd like to please welcome Niagara Regional Police Service Chaplain Gary Page to the podium for a benediction.
Heroes in life, not death. Just a word addition. The first constable on the wall is the first to be killed in action serving this region. He was the third in all of Canada of record to have died in the line of service. We are truly grateful for the sacrifice these officers have made for this welfare, safety, and well-being of our community. Let's take a moment, please, again, stand as we reflect each in our own way, as I will reflect in mine, as we stand together and commemorate these officers with our own quiet moment. Creator, we thank you for those who serve in any of the emergency response units, including the military. But especially today, we are grateful for the lives and service of those commemorated here on the Wall of Heroes. Heroes in life, not death. We thank you, God, knowing that many are called, few are chosen, and fewer still make the ultimate sacrifice for the well-being of this community. We ask you to bring peace to them and their families, for whom we are truly grateful as a community, because without their service, without the service of like-minded who still serve today, we would not be a safe and secure community. Bless all who are willing to come forward and give of themselves for the well-being of others. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Chaplain. This brings us to the conclusion of our ceremony this morning. Just before we close, however, I would like to take another moment to say a final thank you to the friends and family who have joined us this morning to honor the lives and memories and sacrifices of these 8 officers. On behalf of the Niagara Regional Police Service, thank you for attending this morning.